Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus Three Futures and Commodities Show. We are recording here October 4th, Saturday morning at about 8:30 East Coast time. My name's Ben Maldonado, and as always, I'm here with my partner, Barry Hederachi. Barry, how we doing?
Doing good, doing good.
That's awesome. The theme, as we were talking about before we started recording this morning, is the train keeps rolling down the tracks, and as the higher it goes, the more cautious we have to be. And it's that paradox, right? Where I think you posted that meme of gold at 2000 versus gold at 3900, and the everybody's
Right,
lined up at gold 3900 and
right,
nobody's
right.
there at 2000.
hmm
I think that's when we say be cautious, that's the sort of thing. It's a different risk profile buying here, buying the S&P here versus buying in April, May, or June.
Right.
And
hmm
and I think once we get through the charts, you guys will see what we're talking about and be able to make good decisions with the proper level. So let's not delay anymore. Let's dive right in. There's the S&P. Um, See a thick vertical red line that tells me we have
Yeah,
a major timing point here.
absolutely. That's 180 days from the tariff flow. And this is what you brought up last week. And so we're coming right up into it. And there are, we have other timing points um, throughout a cycle, but there's only a couple of big ones. We have the 90, and then we have the 180, 270, 360, right? And so on. And then we have all the divisions of that. So here it's a major one. 180 is the opposition, right? You guys look at planets.
Yep.
So it's kind of a big deal. It's a bigger deal than just a square, which would be the 90. And the next really big one is 270. Sure, that's important, but 360 full cycle is the next one that we really watch. And this is calendar days, so we're coming up right into that. Um, so we'll watch that. You know what's been happening to all the cycles so far, right? For 6 months. Basically we'll have a little bit of a correction and then back on, get above the key level, a little bit of a consolidation, back above, goes on. And here we came up to key level, a little bit of a straddling, and now we got on top. So last week we left off the 66.36, 66.30 level. And I think because of the drop last week, and we had one day counter trend, and I think what we left off with saying, if we take out Friday's low, this Friday right there, that this Friday, that we have to watch it because it sets up for a really nice kind of it could easily sell off, flip. On the flip side, if we can get above this 66, 35, 36 level, we get on top of the level, then we can move higher. So what happened was, Sunday night, Monday we ramped it, we're back up above the level, and we're ready to go. And we went right up into the 180, and right about, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, 67.27 would be 5/8 up on the square. So we have 5/8 again, and 180 calendar days. So just keep in mind. So that 67.27 is the level we want to watch to see if we can take it easily or if we're going to consolidate around it, however you want to look at it. But that's the level you want to watch. 67.27, the key level you want to watch next week on the cash. And I think a number that important, I'd put it up here, right? So hold on. There we go. Um, so that's really it. We're going to handle it very simply and elegantly because we don't want to make this overcomplicated. And then, of course, we want to look out for support around 66.36. If we hold above that, then it just means we're going to have another little bit of a consolidation and back on up. That would be the ideal to keep the bull going. Now, if we somehow, do the same, do some kind of a topping pattern, then we'll have to deal with it that way. But 66.36, we want to watch for support for now. And the 67.27 becomes really important for next week for the cash. So watch that. And that's really it. And we have a timing point.
Hey,
Um,
what's the Barry, what's the next 45? What's the date in November there?
that would be November 18th.
Okay.
Hmm. So yeah, we could certainly do 270 by, getting up into that. So 225 by 270. So that will be fun. But I'm thinking if we keep going that far, we're probably going to just go ramp right up into December and run it to the end. Why stop it in November, right?
Yeah.
Unless, yeah, yeah. So,
Unless there's an external event or something like that, there's no reason why the seasonality wouldn't take us into the year
oh,
end.
absolutely. Yeah, and that's why, as we climb higher, you want to be a little bit extra cautious, right? Watch your risk. And and this has been a hell of a run. So, and these are the key levels when you want to kind of reassess things. And we talked about reassessing, I think around here when we hit that 66.36 a couple of weeks ago. And as you can see, we managed to hold above it pretty well and pump right above the level. So now that's the floor. So that's the cash. Let's take a quick look at this is the continuation uh, chart for the futures market. And here we're kind of in a cluster around a timing point, and also we have a really important square level. That level happens to be 67, from that. Yeah, 56. And I would just keep an eye on it. It's a continuation chart. I mean, good to use it for reference. As you can, if you look at the chart, you can see that the squares are good, levels are good. So we want to just kind of watch it, mainly because we came and banged it earlier on the 22nd, 23rd of September. We backed off, and now we're basically, if you want to look at it this way, we basically set up for a potential false break. So I don't want to be saying false break every week, but hey, they happen. So, so you want to just keep an eye on it. So level is 67.56. And on this chart, if we can manage to hold above that, great. If we slip a little below, yeah, it's fine. It could correct a little bit, but if the bull's going to keep running, this 67.57 is really what we want to take out and get on top of. Just like we did here, 6,400. Remember that, we were messing around here for a while and then finally got on top and took off. So I would just watch that and remember that 180 is on all these charts coming off this low. So when we talk about these levels, that timing cycle is also there. Let's take a look at this is the calendar day. It just shows the square on the continuation calendar chart. This is the same 180 we saw in the cash chart. And here we're up 240 degrees. Remember in the cash chart, I was looking at the 5/8. Here we have 240 price and 180. So that's a pretty good square. Watch out for that. So what are you talking about? Watch out for that. We're watching out for the levels. We want to see if the level gets taken and we get above. So here it's on this chart, it's a continuation coming off of the tariff flow. We want to look at 67.60. We can hold above that. If it can hold above that, great. You know, I mean, I think we're eventually going to go higher. So this is not like some kind of all-time high here. Probably get up into the 7,000 area at a minimum. So eventually we're going to have to take this 760 even after some kind of a correction. Uh, but we'll see. But we'll see. It all depends on what we do here. It is a critical level. We did run out 180 degrees, so it's kind of a big deal. And because of that, because it's a big deal, we want to watch the square, right? 6 months doesn't come every day, so it comes every 6 months. So, all right, 67.60 is the level you want to watch there. This is running a square of 60, okay, or you could say a square of 120. And last, we have the most transient chart, which is the December contract. Coming off the December low, April low, sorry, coming off the April low, we are right up. We just managed to get above this 67.35, and that's a level we want to watch. I think if everything is cool, we definitely hold above the 6735. I mean, we might dip a couple of few points, let's say 5, 6 points, but and then manage to recover and be okay. So let's watch it. Again, we have so we were watching calendar days. So we have a October 15th is coming up. That's 135. We'll see how that's up in the future. But I think right now, because of the 180 coming in, we want to really watch this 735. We've been watching it, right? We want to watch it a little bit closer, see what the price action looks like here. And that'll give us the early indications, right? That's the whole point of all of this. When we talk about these levels and timing, I mean, there's some timing coming up every month, every couple of weeks. So you're waiting to see what the market's doing. And if the market starts to correct, then we want to see, well, where is that support coming in? And then you have to assess, okay, well, is this a dip you want to buy, or is it some kind of a larger thing? So far we haven't had a larger thing because the market's been holding the really big levels on the way up, very strong. So don't want to mess with a good thing. But we want to keep an eye on these things. The higher we go, if we ever end up at 7,000, obviously we want to be extra cautious when we get up into, let's say, 7,100 one day. But here it's very important. So let's watch it. You guys saw all the different numbers that come up so far, and it's October, so pays to kind of
One
watch it.
that 180 there looks interesting too.
You mean here?
Yeah, because that's into late December, right? Mid-December.
Ah, yeah. Yep. This comes in right about when the contract is rolling over, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's 17th. I mean, that looks like we're taking a clear shot into that corner if you
Right.
keep if you keep the trajectory, right?
Agreed.
Uh,
Agreed.
let's see. I mean, this is what trading is. You have to always, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You want to reassess everything. And long as the board is clear, we understand what price is doing. Everything's cool. Everything's okay. All right. So we have the Dow futures. We're looking at this. We're up at 288 degrees from the October 22 lows. And so we've been watching this. We've been just watching this very carefully because in the beginning, I had all this resistance here, and market kind of stopped at the 50% level, right? This 44,842. Had this big correction into the tariff low, recovered nicely, got back into here. That was the zone to watch. If the market was weak, it would have stalled out here, but it didn't, right? It went up to it got on top of it. That was the first sign, and consolidated for a while. A little bit of a flush before we started to move up. And the flush was contained in the zone. I would say it's healthy. Got on top of the 50% little triangle, broke to the upside, and now we're basically at the 288 level from that low. We don't necessarily have timing, but we definitely have price. But we do have timing in other ways. Like obviously we have that 180 from here. So, and if you look at it, it's just 1/4 square. So we do have a decent um, decent price resistance even coming off of this low. It's just 2 1/4 squares going up. And yeah, and the timing we already have. So that's it. But so here you can see the Dow went up. We really pushed against this 288 and stalled. So let me give you guys that level. The 47,162. Obviously, if Dow can get on top of that, I think that's a hell of a good sign for higher prices. And that looks pretty good. So that's, yeah, I think that's the setup there. If we can't get above it, then we want to see where the correction comes into. Obviously, the top of this little triangle is the first area. We get the 1/4 square here. And if you go any deeper, then we have more. This is a critical spot. So I'm not sure what to say. You guys have to look at your chart. I would say to do that, look at your chart, look at your work, look at your positions, and see if this is a good place to to take some profit because if not, getting back in is not a big deal. What else do we have here? We talked about the December. We talked about that. Let's just talk about the Nasdaq really quick. See what's going on here. So Nasdaq, last week we were just below the level here, and we mentioned that like, hey, we could have a lower high in the Nasdaq. Wouldn't that be funny? Well, there was nothing funny. Nasdaq walked right up into the 135. So Nasdaq. If you think about it, we're at 135 by 180 degrees calendar days, right? So that squares out perfectly. And Nasdaq's where all the mania has been with the AI and everything else, right? Semis and everything. So watch again. This is the key level to watch. We don't get to these levels that often. Last 90 was back in June, and before that, it was back in April. So every so often we have to kind of, put the glass down and take a look at the charts. So here, I would really watch this mainly because of the timing. Anybody doing GAN would not ignore the 180. Sure, the other ones go up, but this one you want to watch because if we can't get on top of these levels, we're up pretty high. So and this train is pretty crowded, speaking of trains. So, everybody heading to exits and all that stuff comes to mind, but I'm mentioning it because nobody else is. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just reminding you guys, right? So this is kind of how they show up when nobody's thinking about it. So, or not many people. So that's it for the NASDAQ. I kind of wanted to finish up the NASDAQ showing that we actually have price and time very nicely. Anything you want to add there, Ben, for
Yeah,
the
I think the
futures?
the
Mhm.
parallels with March of 2000 are unbelievable to me. That's when I started trading and I just remember the mania and it's going up forever and everything was bullish and
Mm-hmm.
until it wasn't. And that it's very similar in terms
Mm-hmm.
of price action and sentiment. And so let's see how it plays out. Everything,
Mm-hmm.
every cycle's different. So let's see how this one
Yeah,
ends up.
yeah. However it ends up, it's good to know where we are. It's always good to know how we got here and where we are. So this is the critical level, and because of time and price, right? So long as you guys know that, I think we're all good. Let's move on to, well, before we move on to the bonds, we should probably take a look at the weekly. Here's a weekly continuation chart. So here, look, even if as long as any corrections hold about the 65.30 area, chart's looking pretty good. Yeah, the move's getting a little tall, but that's how moves are, they get taller and taller. So um, I think it's okay. I mean, we had a move that went 3.5 squares. So this is one, two, we got more room to go even to beat this move out of 2020. I mean, it's going kind of vertical. So let's see. Corrections holding above 65.30 is very healthy. I think it looks really good. We can come down to 6,400. I think I put the zone here because we had some number of levels showing up clustering here. And that's why we kind of stalled right at that level for a couple of months. So I think on the way on any correction, holding about 65.30 is great, very strong, and even 6,400 is okay, acceptable. Technically, if we look at this like the gold chart that we normally do, we can come exactly down to the 61.72 level, 61.66, and just be actually probably be the most healthy thing that can happen. So that looks good. So cash, this is coming off the '09 low. And I wanted to, I brought this up because we were running up full cycle up here in price 64.50 and not a big deal. We kind of straddled it for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, about a month, and then we started to move higher. So great. I think any correction here holding about 64.50 obviously the market's in good shape. We can come all the way down to the old highs, 60, 80, no problem, right? It's looking great. Yeah, I think I'm just looking at, I think upside, we have 7,000 plus on the upside open, as long as we can hold the 6450 on corrections. So that's all for that. I think we're just going to watch. So, but next week, all we have to do is look at the levels, watch the levels to see if we can get on top of them and move higher, or if we're going to stall below them. And if we stall below, we want to look at the kind of price action that we see. What do you think, Ben? That's kind of my take on it.
That's the key thing is to know, okay, what are the levels that we have to hold on pullbacks to remain bullish? And then
Right.
then the decision is easy, right? Above it, you stay bullish and you look for long trades. Below it, you can start looking for short setups.
Mm. Yep. That's it. All right. Let's move on. All right. Let's take a quick look at the 30-minute. That's the one I forgot. Well, 30-minute price action, 30-minute, right? So we started off, we have 67.17 was the key level we were watching. We got under a bit on the 29th. We were looking for some during the day on the post. We were looking for some kind of false break to the upside or downside. We got both, right? But the one to the downside, we get a high or low, and then we rocketed back up to 67.43, sold off back to 66.80, took out 67.17, ran right up back up to 67.70. And kind of like talk about ping pong, right? And then back to 67.43, and finally pushed up into the 67.88 level. And Friday we pushed very hard up into it, um, which ended up becoming a false break, right? And we sold off. So that's where we are. I think for next week, it's 67.52, 67.43. There's like a 10-point range here. I would watch that very carefully. If we go higher and we fail again and take these out, that's probably not a good sign. But if we can hold these and move higher and obviously make higher lows coming off of this level, the 6750 level, we should be okay. Kind of like how yeah, we should be okay. Of course, watch the support level to the downside from there, watch the levels to the, above it. But that's the level we're going to focus on for the first couple of days till we kind of break out of that range, right? Because we almost tapped it on Friday. And I forgot to mention, I posted this. This is a 4-hour chart, and I posted this on, well, last week when I saw there's a Gartley setting up. And interesting to this Gartley, the timing came in pretty well. The A to B to D, the vertical lines lined up exactly on the last 4-hour bar. And the ABCD completed perfectly. I mean, everything looks technically good. And the cool thing about this chart is there's a number of elements here that are not related, and they all kind of came together. I kind of like just to do it for fun and see what happens. So everything kind of came together at that Friday's high, and this had nothing to do with the 30-minute chart or any other charts. I was just working the 4-hour. This makes the Friday high really, really important, right? Because we did finish that ABCD up, and there was some timing coming off. This is all short term. So if you guys want to watch how this works out, obviously the lower trend line is the one you want to watch, right? If we take that out, obviously, then this could be early signs of what's happening on the daily cycle that we talked about. So it was just something to, talk about. That's all. All right, let's.
Great chart. It's a great chart.
No, thanks. Sometimes I get bored and start working on things. So, all right. So here's let's move on to bonds. Not much to talk about. We had the ABCD completion at the high with the false break to boot. Then we did little ABCD down and a correction. So we're kind of, we have a lower high in place. I think the key thing here that the same level, 66.18, 66, I'm sorry, 116.18, 116 and a half. We want to see if bonds can hold that, or not. So we're kind of grinding back and forth through there. Let's see if we can slip through or not. That's the thing we're watching for next week. And if you guys look at the weekly bonds, not much. We're still in there. Obviously, we made a higher higher high and higher low on the weekly bar. So this is why it's still, it's kind of holding above the key level. It's at once, almost at 117. Let's see what happens. Obviously, we have room to run up all the way into, 119 and a half. So that's kind of how we're watching it. But obviously, we're stuck in this big old range, so not a whole lot of trending stuff. But if you want to watch you know, the daily and the shorter term, that's how I would look at it. Really keying off that at 116 and a half, 116.18 level. Moving on to crude. Well, look at that, right? False break at the high, right around that 64.75, and promptly came. This is what a false break should look like, right? We go up, next day reverse, just don't look back, and straight down into Friday. A secondary flush, right? This is just little bit too good to have it like that, and then just take off. So I'm looking at this as a flush. You guys, we talk about these a lot, how some of these commodity markets flush before or a false move, we can say, right? The false move before we get going. And this thing reeks of that. So this could possibly be a false break. We move higher. We had one here. So they do show up, especially when we go sideways for a while, before and before the move shows up. So we'd watch that. Can we get to 50? Well, anything can happen with oil, as you remember. So we'll see what happens. But for now, I'm looking at this as some kind of a flush before a move higher. And long as we're holding above these lows in April, I think all of this is some kind of a bottoming process. And so I'm sticking by that story. Going on to crude weekly, you can see, I mean, we talked about it last week, right? Till we get above this 65 area, it's square 60 coming up from the 2020 low, not much is going to happen. So this is the kind of price action we get. What to do? I would figure as long as we're above 60, I'd say above 59, it's like sort of a normal flush. If we get down into here, well, let's see. We'll have to see. I think the lower we go now, the bigger the move up, and it's coming up. I would say less than 6 months. So we're just kind of watching, counting the days. It's also setting up for a triangle if we don't take this low out. So those are the things I'm noticing, but not a time to get busy with the upside just yet. Short term, sure, you guys can trade this. Obviously within the range, it was great trading for short term. But for long term, we got to wait a little bit. So, all right, let's move on to gold. Gold, what can we
Gold.
say? Yeah, gold is just rocketed. So
Yeah.
it's great. It's great. All right. So gold is doing, we couldn't ask for more, right? I don't think bulls could ask for any more. So 37.82 is the level we want to watch. 37.82. We cleared that without a problem. And well, I think we're in good shape. I don't know why we wouldn't get to 4,000, right? So we don't want to mess with the good bull market. 4,000, let's say 39.67, 39.70. Looks like where we're going. We are doing a pretty steep line here. Not a whole lot of correcting going on. Not like we did earlier. So this might be the frenzy part of it. If this was a 4, this is going to be a 5th, right? So it could run, man. Let's see. I don't know if that's a 4, but it just definitely looks like 4th wave kind of price action. So we're looking, yeah, looks good. 37.82. Next level up is 39, let's say 39.69. So there we go. That up there. That's it. Enjoy the ride because, the old bulls have been waiting forever for a move like this. I would say enjoy it till as long as you can. So looking at the weekly really quick, I had this band of resistance between 37 and 38. We talked about that last week, and we landed right into that last week. And if we can clear it much higher, so we definitely cleared it, went to the 50% level. And now what's left is really the next square. If we once we clear that, it's 41.31. So basis the weekly. So 3,700 is it's really the level to watch. Obviously 3,800 if we can hold above this little zone, even stronger. But it just looks like it wants to go. We do have a weekly cycle coming up. That would be the week of late October, week of the 24th. That would be three squares out. That would be interesting. We square that out, and that would be around at 41.28. So if we clear the 50%, obviously we have 4,000 plus to go the next big square coming off the 22 low. There might be other things when we get closer to some kind of a termination. We'll take a look at it. So that's it for gold. Let's move on to. All the metals are just looking amazing. So, all right. So silver, this is not even difficult. So 44.60 is support and 49.10 is resistance. If we can get above 49.10, we got $50 plus silver coming up, going up to 53. A hell of a good run. So looks like we have a little bit more to go, even to run out 72. We have to get to November. So 72 from this low. So let's see. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll, as silver gets a little steeper and gold, we'll do a little bit more of a closer look, maybe next week or the week after. But it looks good for now. Those are really the only two levels when markets are running. You don't really have to do. It's very minimal work, just like in the S&P, right? It's minimal work on the upside. You just have to watch where the key levels are, resistant levels, support levels. All right. So weekly, clearly, 135 is up in the $51. So here we go, $51 silver. And support, I would say 45.5 support. That's the 50% level here coming off the square 45. This is a good chart. So I think this 51 is sort of in the cards. And
I really like the way this chart shows what happens at a key level like a 90. Like look what happened on
right
the
here.
weekly at 90.
We broke
When
out, you mean?
no, we went up into it, then it caused a 2 week pullback,
hmm
and then once it got through, it was gone.
Yeah, straight out. So this is part of these levels, right? One of the things we want
Mhm.
to watch is if a level gets taken out, especially key level on the other side, that's why we want to say once you get on the other side, it can go. And this is a great example of that. And here's another one, we're on one side of it and we can retest all we want, but as long as we're on the other side, we can go. And here's another one. We broke a little bit, came back up, retest and go. So yeah, lots of good examples. So silver looks good. I mean, there's, get to the point. You're like, well, what's not to like, right? Copper finally woke up, and you can see how it woke up exactly at the key level, 495. We talked about that being important level to watch. And ever since we got that little flush, we've been bullish. It started to make higher lows and slowly get back on track with the rest of the metals. Now it's really 541. It's really the level to watch. And as long as we're above the 495 level, I think copper's in pretty good shape and back on track again. You guys want to look at the weekly copper? There it is. We have 480 as the 50% of the square coming off the 2020 low. So 535 is the level you want to watch to the upside. Now we're above 480, so we do have room to run. Just watch the counter trends on the way up. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin, we left off last week saying this 109 support was really important, and that if we hold that, we can expect to bounce up into this area at least. to see if that 618 area worked out. But we ran up there the first time, so that then we got a higher low. This was support, and boy did we ran hard. So and the idea of the ABCD was if we were to lose that low, then we have a hell of a lot lower to go. So we didn't lose it, we held it, and and that's a good way to play that's how you want to play these levels. It's always the same story. Are we holding a level or not? And you can see there's a 10, 109, 108 level held. I think Ben, you had 108 in here. And after we took this the pivot out, straight up into 180 is what happened. So let's see. Till we clear this eight up here, I think till we clear this 123,600, I would say um, I don't think we're ready for an entirely new leg. So we could bump around here for a while. So watch Friday's low. Watch the 180, 123.72. It's a level here. Go and watch. I think that was the leg. Um, Rest, we might have to consolidate. The question is, are we going to consolidate above the square? Or are we going to consolidate in some kind of a correction? And how would we know that? Well, watch the 127.32. If we're above that, it's probably going to be some kind of a sideways. And if we get below that, it's going to be a normal counter trend. But this looks like resistance to me. Well, not just because of the eight, but also, we tried that area level before. And all that looks a little bit, I don't know if Bitcoin can have such a thing as distribution, but if it was a stock, that looks like distribution, but it's not a stock, right, Ben? So we'll
It's
trade it
its
like
own
that.
animal. It's its
Yep.
own animal.
Yep. And so anyway, chart patterns are chart patterns. So it looks like we're up against that. We got to take out that 1/8 level. Otherwise, I don't think we're quite there. But fine. All right. Let's move on to the dollar. Dollar's still kind of in that correcting mode. We did this ABCD up, broke out of the downtrend line. It's kind of retesting the breakout. Let it finish up. We're holding above key levels, so I think we're okay as far as the dollar goes. Here's the weekly chart. So, we got the square, we got the false break, we ran up, we have an inside bar. So obviously we're going to be watching to see if last week's higher low gets taken out next week, and that's the direction we want to play. And when you do that, I just want to say when you do that, you also want to be careful of, outside bars coming in that happen. So you have to, this higher taking out the inside bar works, but you have to be a little bit aware, right? You can't walk into it blindly. All right, here's the euro. Holding above 1650. Let's just say as long as we're above that, it's on firm ground. And so I'm just waiting for it to break. Let's see, we can go to the little trend line, connecting the lows. There's a little trend line to watch. I think that's the one. And the whole dollar business will be settled if euro can take this 650 out. In the meantime, sure, we can hang around here, but we don't really have a trend necessarily. If you look at it, look at this daily. We're just kind of clustered here sideways. So not much. Let's see what happened. About 1650 is the level to watch. You look at the weekly, not much different, 1654. So everything's aligned. We went up to 2/3. The weekly turned around with a false break. We had a pretty good move down. We also have an inside bar. Do you want to watch the weekly bar on the euro? See if we take it out to the downside or upside. That's it for the euro. Let's back on track here. Get back on track with natural gas. Not much. We're talking dream state, just completely sideways. But we're watching it. You gotta watch these things while they're sleeping. So Hang Seng is doing great, 26,230. We recovered, just poked a little bit under it. held the trend line. We ran up to the next square. So I think the market's looking fine, looking strong. 28,560 is the next level up. There we go. As long as we're above 26,230, market's in pretty good shape. It's been correcting pretty well. You notice we didn't have this big rocket move up. This is just a sort of, yeah, a little on the sloppy side, but a decent bull trend with proper correction. So it looks like it's okay. Um, yeah, that's it for me. Let's watch next week. Yeah, interesting week altogether. And
Good.
yeah,
Yeah, good coverage. Good coverage.
thanks, Ben. All right, let's go see your NASDAQ charts, a long-term chart. And I know you got a bunch of commodities to cover, so let's
Yeah,
take a look at that.
we're gonna do a quick whip around the commodity world.
All right, let's get there. Well, Ben, we're back in the middle of the square, upper half. I guess looking for direction, eh?
I mean, it's clearly the direction is higher, right? We've been bullish, and it's been very, very bullish. Then Friday they give us an outside reversal bar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's never easy.
You
That's
know
for
what I
sure.
noticed? From the April low, looks like you're about three squares up. Um,
Yeah, one, two, yep, almost three.
right?
Count this a little extra. Yeah, it's
So you're
probably three squares up.
close to 270 up, and you have the
Yep.
180 there kicking in. So you
Yeah,
also have, mhm,
we have a 120. It was here. We got a 45 that hit from the July August low. We got a
mhm,
216 coming up mid-October. I mean, there's lots of timing in here.
mhm, right.
Um, but again, you look at the trend and the levels we've been talking about here for the longest time we were talking about, okay, 22,820. We got to clear that, which we
Mhm,
did,
mhm,
tested it, and then we got started getting the higher lows, and then we went up to the next level. And here it jumped right over, right?
mhm,
Came
mhm,
back and tested it, and now so is the key level now is 24,263. As long as we're above that, it's bullish.
right.
You can almost feel like there's a magnet that's pulling us up to this 25,720. Even with that outside reversal bar, maybe we get a couple day correction and then go, if it gives us a higher low, then that's the clue, right? That we're going to go
Mhm,
again.
mhm,
Here we even did a, little demonic false break, slight false break here. But
mhm,
when you get the higher lows, you got to know the odds are in your favor that it's going to push.
mhm.
And the outside reversal bar, it cracks me up. They do that on Friday so often just to make us wonder for the next 2 days. But let's see what if there's any follow through to the downside. We just want to watch and see, do we get a higher low? If it really sells off, can we hold above this, 24,263?
I'd watch the quarter level there, the three quarters level. That
Mm-hmm.
that would be the key here, right? Uh,
It's just under 25,000. And when we go to the monthly weekly, you'll see why 25,000 is important.
okay.
It's 24,979.
Hmm.
But let's jump over to the weekly. First, let's go to the calendar day because this is also very instructive. Remember, we were talking a couple weeks ago about, that's a square out. We got a little
Hmm.
reaction off of it. Then we, battled under the square here. We were thinking, oh boy, if we get stuck under this 25,000 level with a lower high, we could really get a move lower. Boom.
Hmm.
Now you see why that 25,000 level is pretty important.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a,
It'll come in
that's a
handy next week.
Yeah, it'll give it's higher. It's a higher level that can be the early warning sign, than the level on the daily, which we were talking about around 24,260. So
Right.
just call it 25,000 even. Let's watch that level like a hawk next week, because
Hmm.
if we get stuck under that, it could signal, some pressure short term. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Bitcoin. Let me go to NQ weekly. We'll get to Bitcoin.
Oh, it's hitting some key level there.
Yeah, it sure is. So here's your weekly. Here 24,000 is the key level. And remember, we were coming up against this, looks like almost like 5, 6 weeks. Then we pushed through and then cleared.
Hmm.
So now on pullbacks 24,000, if we pull back and 24,000 holds, that's very bullish, very bullish. So that let's look at the monthly. Monthly, we've already made a higher high this month.
Hmm. Of course.
So yeah, yeah, we straddled, we tapped this for 1, 2 basically, and then straddled it this third month, but there was the push, and now it's got the opportunity again if we can, keep the low for this month above 24,000. We got an opportunity to clear the 180. That's big on a monthly basis,
Especially
and
coming from
that's
O2.
yeah, yeah, that's from the O2, the .com low. So this gives you perspective on where and how far we've come. And now the key level is the 24,000.
Hmm.
Are we gonna hold that on a pullback, or do we, get stuck under it and potentially start the trip down? We'll see. Some interesting timing here too, Barry. 45 months high to high.
Yes.
Um,
Six.
36 months. Yeah, we got actual 36. I can tick
And
that
that's
over one
important. That's
more.
that's a really a good count. That's no
Yeah,
joke.
it's 3 years, right? 36
Hmm.
months
Yeah, yeah.
from the 2022 low
Hmm.
that sort of kicked off this last wave. So we're in zone for timing. And again, this is not 5-minute timing. This is monthly timing. So you pay attention.
No, I think this is important, especially with the short term, the 6 month cycle coming in.
Hmm. So anything else you want to add on the NQs? Looking at the longer term charts.
No, looks good. And I think, I mean, everything I was watching fine till you mentioned the 45 and the 36. Now my
Yeah,
eyes I can't unsee it. So I think, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
let's watch that closely.
There are the cycles there. So we have to keep in mind price rules. So price will take precedent, but just know in the background you have that timing. All right, let's jump over to Bitcoin. Here's Bitcoin on the daily. And there's that
Mm.
108 level you were
Yeah.
describing. That's the full square that we've been watching. And again, it's something simple. And Barry always reverts back to first principles, higher lows and higher highs, right? Well, there's your
Hmm.
higher low. And that
Yep.
that was the warning. Higher
Hmm.
low holding above the full square. And boom, there
Boom.
you go. So now we really want to watch over the weekend into Monday, this, 119, 120 level.
Yeah.
Because if we can rest on top of that, it does open up 131. If we're going to hold above that, odds will favor that we're going to push higher to the 131 level. On the other hand, if we do, false break or shenanigans here and then get stuck under that, 120 level, then it's back into the mix and it could be chopping around. So those are your key levels, right? 119, 120
Hmm.
this coming week. Watch that and it'll give you clues as to what's more probable. Here's the weekly chart that we had a preview of. So here the a key level is this
Yeah.
126,
I'm like, we're
right?
not going to 130.
Yeah. And when you zoom out, right, you do get a different perspective, right?
Hmm.
126 is now key, right? And if we can't clear that, if we get stuck or we straddle here, we could just get stuck here, as you were saying, and go sideways and bounce around in a channel. But if until we clear that, it's hard to see a lot of headway to the upside above 126. But we did hold this level, which was very important. This 107, 108, structurally and from a 50% of the square standpoint.
Hmm.
So it's not bearish. It's not bearish. We gotta watch and see this 126 level is the next key. So daily basis, it's 119, 120. Weekly basis, it's 126 you want to watch. It's early in the month, but let's take a quick look at the monthly. As long as we don't print a low below this 111,
We cleared it. Yeah.
we'll have cleared the full square. So we'll see. And this is after 6 months, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Hmm.
5 months of
Hmm.
battling at this full square. So it's a pretty important spot there. So we'll see. You got the levels, 126 weekly, what did we say? 119, 118 on the daily. Yeah, 119, 120 on the daily. And with those, you know the which way the odds favor once price either settles above or settles below. All right, let's talk about the commodities. Today we're gonna cover corn and soybeans. We're gonna cover sugar. We're gonna cover coffee. We're gonna take a look at that monthly circle chart on crude, and we're gonna take a look in on nat gas. Before we get into corn and soybeans, wheat is sideways when you look at it on the daily. The thing that we got an early warning signal, we're not going to highlight it this week because it's too early, but we did get a higher low on the daily. So let's see if next week we can get a follow through and get a higher high, even though we're in a sideways channel. It's the first clue that, something may be changing there. So keep an eye on wheat this week. Let's go to corn. So we talked about last week that we were finishing up this ABCD. We got the finish and we reversed nicely off of that. So what do we want to see now? Now we want to see this high get taken out. So this week, watch like 431 area, 430, 431. See if we can make a higher high there, because then we've got a low, a high, a higher low, and we'll have a higher high. And that will be the impetus to push us up, I think, to this 50% of the square, which is if you look left, you can see how important that is. 446 is going to be really key when we get up and test that. Because if we sit on that, can sit up on top of that, it shows that we're all this price action is going to be behind us. But it's progressing, right? Completed the ABCD, reversed. Now we want to see a higher high this coming week. Let's just take a quick look at the weekly. See the view there. Key thing here, we held the full square at 412. We tapped it on this ABCD pullback and closed near the highs of the week. So we want to see a weekly reversal this week would be great, because then it gives us the ability to potentially put in that higher high on a weekly basis too. Take out these highs here, which is in that 430, 431 area.
It's good.
But it's progressing, right? It's starting to
Yeah.
move. It's filtering through from the daily to the weekly, and you'll see the monthly's got, the most work to do yet, but we're getting there. We had a higher high last month, right? So we had a monthly reversal bar. This month we've already made a lower low. So if we can turn it around and take out the high, we'll have an outside bar showing that, okay, we had a pullback and then the uptrend wants to continue. But you can see how the move filters from daily to weekly to monthly, and it kind of takes time for those longer term charts to turn. Anything you want to add on corn here?
Well, I think this is very early, and we're watching the patterns, see what happens. So I think if we can clear these levels, I think we're well on the way. So, but that
Yeah.
weekly level is really important. I think that's the one to watch when you put it out. No,
Yeah, this one here, the 412 on the downside, holding that.
absolutely, yeah. So if the
Yeah.
high gets taken out, great. If the low gets taken out, great. Either way, we know what's happening.
Yeah. It gives us the information we need to know what the risk is. All right, let's jump over to the next one. Beans. Same thing. Last week we were showing this ABCD. And this is great, right? Remember last week we were in here and we're saying, okay, look, the ABCD completed, but look what they had to do. They had to flush it, right?
Yep.
There's your flush bar. You ended up closing all the way up here after being down here. And then we have two days in a row higher after the flush. Same key here, 1035, right? Sit on top of
Hmm.
1035. It's a whole new ball game. But we have the higher low here. We had a higher low here, higher low here, higher low here. So wheat is basically back here.
Hmm.
We're where it's the first higher low and a reversal. So while you could say, "Oh, this is just sideways," why are you talking about it? We're talking about it because of the clues you get from looking at the chart. Right, the higher lows. little ABCD and a strong reversal. Now we want to see that close over 1035. Clear that, and then beans is I think ready to move. Let's take a look at the weekly. Weekly here, we had a weekly down bar, closed, above the middle of the range, which is good. But the other thing is this sideways, we've finally taken out that downtrend line and now we're testing it. So if we get a weekly reversal here and then weekly basis clear 1060, then this thing is off to the races. That's the weekly. Here's your monthly. Notice how corn on the monthly had work to do to clear the downtrend. Here, soybeans is the furthest along. Even though it's been moving sideways, it's been moving sideways above this full square at 983. And now we're cleared just through time. We've cleared the downtrend line. Now we want to see a higher high on a monthly basis. But it's doing what it needs to do to show. The monthly is going to come last because it's the longest time frame. But if you look at the daily and you look at the weekly, the signs are starting to pick up. Early warning sign is this 1035 on the daily.
All right.
Anything to add on beans?
No, we're good. We're watching it. We're watching, we can't say we're going to miss this one.
No.
We're-
We're
So
early.
we're watching the buildup. Yep. Yep.
Yep. All right, let's go to another one where we brought it to your attention early, but it's starting. So last week we talked about we had a higher low, but we needed a higher high. Well, look what it did this week. We got our higher high and we're sort of stair stepping, slowly crawling up here, but we did get the higher high. Again, this thing is super early and it's developing. The false break on the half square was the thing that
Hmm.
brought it to our attention, right? That was a point. We had timing on a half square and we had price on the half square. And then we had the false break to boot. And then we saw the reaction, the pullback for the higher low. Now we've got the higher high. We've got time, but you want to watch this. Because when these things go, they really go. I mean, look at this
Yep.
kind of move, right?
Hmm.
Here's a perfect example, right? You had a false break on a full square, first move up, pull back, and then go.
Yep.
Not saying that's exactly going to happen, but this is the setup that we're looking at. All right, let's look at the weekly. So weekly, we had a higher high, right? We had a weekly reversal bar, and then last week we had a reversal down bar, but we closed at the high. And then look at this week, Barry. Again, we took out last week's high and the week before's high. So this is starting to talk about accumulation. False break on the half square weekly basis. Let's take a look at the monthly. Monthly clearly has work to do because we're early. But what we're hoping to see here is getting a higher high this month to give us that monthly reversal.
Yep. Yep.
But you can see this is still in a downtrend
Hmm.
because it's
Hmm.
monthly. But we're starting here,
Right. You're starting to see some signs.
starting to see the signs. So that's sugar. Let's go take a look at the next one. And this is we're still looking at this short setup here on coffee. And what did we do this week? We were battling around 380 and it actually cleared 380 on Friday. So we want to watch this now to see, do we get any follow through here? If we do we get that lower high and then a reversal where we can attack on the short side? If we got stuck, it would have been more bearish if we would have got stuck under here and turned down, but that didn't happen.
Hmm.
So now we watch. We're still in lurking mode here, sort of stalking mode, seeing if we can't get a good setup from a lower high now that reverses. We don't need to look at the monthly and the weekly because those are, basically the same from last week.
Hmm.
So keep this on your radar. We're seeing if we get that short setup. All right, let's run down to crude and look at the circle chart. Now, why are we showing the circle chart? Well, here we were saying, 2, 3 months ago, can we break out of the circle to get sort of an accelerated move that happens when you do? Here was one where you break out and you go to the downside. So what we're looking at is we're hugging the circle now, and we're below this 71.59 full square. So there's pressure to the downside. You were talking about when you were reviewing crude, there's a possible flush coming.
Mhm.
It really could happen along this, the
Right.
outside and the curvature of this circle, because that happens, right? You can see it
Hmm.
here when it's going up, and then it breaks out and it goes down. Or it comes inside. Price likes to hug the curvature here. So if we don't get going to the upside and sort of pull away from this, watch and see. There might be some sort of plunge coming in crude along the outside of that circle. And it would be either this month or next month, right? Because by December we're getting pretty far away from the edge.
Hmm.
So it's something to watch. There's no guarantee, obviously. On the other hand, if we push up and can clear this full square, that's when the rocket launches on this, because you sort of, the rubber band is stretched here and then it's released, and you get a big potential big move in the opposite direction. So something to watch. All right, lastly, let's take a quick look at nat gas. So while yes, if you look back, we're in a sideways channel. It's no question we've been sideways. The thing that I was watching last week is we had the low, a move up, higher low, held the full square, and look at the bounce we got up into the half square. But then we failed there, right? So
Hmm.
now we want to watch what happens on this next pullback. Can we sit on top of this like 317, 315 area?
Hmm.
Structurally, that would be bullish. And then that would say, okay, let's attack this 341 area again, 342. Or do we pull back again and make a lower low, or make another sloppy move down in here to where we're not getting that series of higher highs and higher lows? So watch it, see. It's a good spot. We found the sellers right at the half square. It's a logical spot. Now we want to see what happens on this next pullback. Do we get that higher low, and then can we clear on the upside 342? So while we're in a channel, there's still information that's being given. So we want to watch that and see how that turns out. And that's it on the commodities. Anything else you want to add on any of them that we saw, Barry, or any of them that we reviewed?
But I think we have to really kind of keep an eye on things that are running hot, right? The
Hmm.
metals are running pretty hot, and everything else is we're kind of waiting, right? Crude,
We
we're
are.
kind of waiting. Yeah, there's some little
Grains we're
short term
waiting.
grains we're
Softs we're
waiting.
waiting. Yeah,
Hmm.
waiting for the proper setups.
Right, and everything else is on trend.
That's
So
it.
yeah, yeah, and
Well, listen, good job on the show today, everybody. We always appreciate your support. Share the links with friends or the videos with people you think that would enjoy the content, and we would appreciate that. Rest up on this weekend, and we'll see you all next week.
good job, Ben. And you guys have a great weekend and an amazing week next week. It's going to be an interesting week. I have to say that because the 180 and a lot of these other cycles that are coming up. Let's see what happens. You guys leave your comments, see what you think and what's showing up on your chart, and we'll see you next week.
Excellent.
Right.
Hey, and
Huh?
by the way, one last thing I forgot to mention: we do have a Rebel Yell on Tuesday, so throw that
Oh,
into the mix for the week.
yeah, that's going to
We
be
haven't had
important.
one,
Yes,
and we haven't had one in a while, so let's
that's
let's see what
true.
happens.
Yep, yeah, very good. All right, take care.
Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.